Comparing to live stream, it hangs at a certain point. No, no, okay, we're live. Okay, okay, chalo, see you. Bye.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Today marks the 7th Majalis at IEC Husaini for our Ashra English lecture series read by Moulana Syed, Safi, Haider, Abidi. We also have a special guest poetry reciter from the UK. Brother will be reciting Lamentations for Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Also, we have a short presentation by the Husain chapter of Chicago today for you guys, where they're going to be discussing some of the work that they did over the course of the year. So first, just to start off, I would like to introduce Brother Yazdan Agha for the recitation of Salam. Bawaze Balan Salawat. Allah.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. ایک بار اور مجھے گود میں لے لو بابا، ایک بار اور مجھے گود میں لے لو بابا، ایک بار اور مجھے گود میں لے لو بابا، واہ حسینہ کا ہوا شور حرم میں برپا، ہو کے رخصت جو چلے گھر سے شاہ کر بو بلا، سن کے یہ دوری سکینہ کے ٹھہر جاؤ ذرا، ایک بار اور مجھے گود میں لے لو بابا، سوچتی ہوں کہ تماچے کوئی مارے نہ میرے، گوشوارے کوئی کانوں سے اتارے نہ میرے، وہم آتے ہیں میرے دل میں نہ جانے کیا کیا، ایک بار اور مجھے گود میں لے لو بابا، بابا سینے سے سکینہ کو لگاتے جائیے، اب کہاں ہوگی ملاقات بتاتے جائیے، تم کو اصغر کی کسان غنچہ دہان کا صدقہ، ایک بار اور مجھے گود میں لے لو بابا، شین بچی کا جو یہ حال پریشان دیکھا، رک کے فرمایا کہ کیا حال میری ماں ہے لکا، جوڑ کر ننھے سے ہاتھوں کو سکینہ نے کہا، ایک بار اور مجھے گود میں لے لو بابا، اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد۔
اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد ورجل فرجہم۔ Many of you know who is Hussein and especially the work being done in our Chicago chapter. They started this chapter over 7 years ago, and alhamdulillah, the work they have been doing has been seen by thousands around the world. Without further delay, I would like to invite Brother Akil Hussein and Faris Hussein to give us an update on their work this past year. Fawazib al-salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum, my fellow brothers and sisters in humanity. My name is Faris Hussein, and today I will be presenting this presentation about what Hussein has done during the COVID-19 crisis, and which has done nothing short of provide difficulty and hardship to us all. Along with me is my familiar team member, Akil Hussein. So today we will be discussing 3 things: our work during the onset of COVID, our annual back to school project, and our future outlook. COVID has set back the entire world, but Hussein Chicago immediately stepped up to the plate the moment we found an opportunity and started distributing masks to those in need. While this was a blessed experience, the truly blessed experience was our chance encounter with St. Rita Parish in Southside Chicago. A special volunteer turned team member joined Hussein Chicago and began to collect groceries and distribute the groceries to about 40 families that belonged to the St. Rita community. He did this all by himself, and he volunteered to join our team all by himself. The community was in desperate need of groceries and produce, and this was during the crisis where people were not even going to Walmart on their own. However, this volunteer stepped up and did his duty, and for that we're very happy and we're very proud to call him a part of our team. After the team found out about this grocery distribution, we took our part and we stepped in, and alhamdulillah, we were able to serve, in the next month or so, we were able to serve almost 500 families. And we're working very close with the St. Rita Parish community. And inshallah, we'll be working with them next week on Tuesday, September 1st, where we will help them pack groceries and then distribute them. Here's a little video just to show you what exactly went on.
The following week,
Sorry about that.
hi, my name is Father Romero Sanchez. I'm the pastor at St. Rita of Cache Parish in Chicago. I'm very grateful to Who is Hussein organization. They help us to develop a great food pantry in our parish. A few months ago, when the pandemic started, we were begging for food, and just out of the blue, they start giving us a little of hope. This hope become kind of the great example of how to help others. We had about 40 families in the beginning of the pandemic that were asking for food. Then the following week, they multiplied, double, and after that, people keep coming and coming. And Who is Hussein help us for at least 3 weeks to give out first 40 to 40 families, then to 80, then to 120, and that started the whole pantry in our parish. Right now we have about 450, 500 families that are benefiting from from this pantry, and it was all because Hussein was the first organization that started as something great to help others. And I'll be very, very grateful. The people that in my parish are grateful for this project. I mean, now it's an amazing development, how to help others without asking anything in return.
Again, so I just wanted to repeat that we will be having an event with the St. Rita Parish from Hussein next week on Tuesday, inshallah.
Hi, my name is Father Sanchez. I'm the
Now, here's a video clip talking about the mask distribution that Hussein was a part of.
Hired by Illinois law went out in public today. The organization Who is Hussein teamed up with 4th Ward Alderman Sophia King and other local leaders to hand out masks. A total of 3,000 face masks and gloves were given out to community members.
The Antioch.
Hired by Illinois law.
And now I'm going to be turning it over to my team member, Akil Hussein.
Everybody, thank you, Faris. My name is Akil Hussein, and I work alongside Faris with Hussein here in Chicago. First and foremost, what you'll see here is a chart that depicts the brief history and growth of our backpack project beginning in 2016. As you can see, we started with steady growth, and with the help of media, and of course, our volunteers and community members who have been supporting us over the years, we were able to grow to about 1,200 backpacks in 2019, and we're able to maintain that number for 2020. Our original plans for this year were to have further growth with the project to reach 1,500 backpacks or above, but due to these unplanned and unexpected projects related to COVID-19 that you just heard Faris speak about, we weren't able to grow as we expected, but we were, alhamdulillah, able to kind of maintain the number in terms of the output that we were able to assist with those neighborhoods and for those students. And also we were able to achieve some secondary goals that we were trying to plan for and trying to achieve over time, which I'll talk about momentarily. Now, on the next slide, you'll see a photo of the packing event that we had this past year on Saturday, August 22nd. Normally, we would be packing at a local school or a local elementary who would be receiving the bags. But this year, we partnered with a local business in the Auburn-Gresham neighborhood to be able to have a little bit more interaction with the community and the recipients of our supplies. This helped us introduce the organization and the message of Imam Hussein to numerous local organizations in the area, including Tony Preckwinkle, who's the Cook County president of the Board of Commissioners, who you'll see on the next slide here. Right over there, you'll see that's Tony Preckwinkle, amongst numerous other politicians, which you'll see on the next slide, who are all able to attend the event. That includes, as you can see, Stanley Moore, who's the Cook County Commissioner, a district state representative, the City of Chicago Treasurer, several aldermen, and a couple other individuals who aren't listed here, who were all able to attend the event, and we were able to speak with them directly about the growth of our organization across all of our projects, what we were able to do for COVID, and how we do this entirely under the inspiration of this man named Hussein ibn Ali, and a little bit of the story that he stood for. This had an immense impact on not only the politicians we were able to speak with, but also our organization, since we now have those connections, and they'll be able to keep us in mind going forward when they consider other methods for us to be able to provide for the community. As you can see on the slide, photos of the event and just more names of people that we were able to work with are listed on our social media, primarily our Facebook and Instagram pages. On this slide here, you'll see a map of Network 11, which is a neighborhood that averages the lowest household income in the city of Chicago and has the most number of students who require assistance with their school supplies. Slowly, we were able to start with just one school and provide for that one school back in 2016 and 2017. But we've now, alhamdulillah, been able to grow to be able to assist between 4 and 5 schools over each of the past 2 years. Our goal, inshallah, one day is to be able to work with CPS and the city of Chicago to provide for the entirety of Network 11, which consists, I believe, of about 11 to 12 schools. This way, The city and Chicago Public Schools can confidently state that the legacy of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is providing supplies to help foster education in these neighborhoods who need it the most, inshallah. It's a long-term goal, and it's an ambitious goal that will take lots of time, tons of community support, additional funds, everything like that. But it's a plan that we have, inshallah, over the next several years to be able to entirely provide for this network that needs it the most. On the next slide, you'll see some of the other service projects we were able to do over the past couple of years, even this year. You'll see the back to school event as we do every year, the COVID projects that you just heard Faris speak about. We do an annual winter care package project where we provide winter supplies to the homeless individuals across the city who unfortunately don't have anywhere to go during the harsh, cold winter months. We do an annual dental clinic for low-income populations of Chicago, where those individuals who may not have access to dental clinics or dentists can come in and have free cleanings done and basic work on their teeth and making sure that they have great oral health. We do monthly soup kitchens, which are temporarily on hold for COVID, but otherwise we do about monthly soup kitchens, if not bi-weekly soup kitchens, where we assist soup kitchens on the north and northwest sides of Chicago. We do a memorial march in Milwaukee, which some of you may have attended last year, where we're able to do something similar to a Jalous, but more targeted to a Western audience that can possibly relate a little bit better to what we're trying to achieve with the Hussein message and inspiring them and educating them on the legacy of Imam Hussein. And then the final thing is, inshallah, within a couple of days, we'll have our drive-by Jalous here in Chicago, which we're working to assist with to be able to help with the operations of that, and particularly the marketing and the message that goes out. We also do lots of work with public relations. Alhamdulillah, over the years, we've been able to develop strong relationships with the media here in Chicago across the news, the local radio, print publications. We've also been able to develop relationships with schools in the area, churches, as you saw at St. Rita's Parish, and other local facilities that are established to give back to communities, such as soup kitchens and whatnot. And lastly, particularly with this project we had with Back to School this year, we were able to work to develop connections on the government level, local government, with aldermen, with the Cook County Board president, with other significant individuals who can help us kind of establish ourselves and our footing a little bit stronger in Chicago to be able to have more of an influence in the communities as it relates to being able to get out the message of Imam Hussein and to be able to provide in different ways for those who could really use our help. Lastly, on this last slide, you'll see that we can always use the community's assistance in any kind of means, whether that is your time for volunteering, your skills to help us in our operations. We're always looking for ways to improve upon our operations, to develop better content, better media, whatever it may be, to be the most effective we can possibly be, or any other contributions you can make in whatever way makes you the most comfortable and whatever way that you think you can help the best. Please feel free to reach out to us at this email, chicago@whoishussein.org. If you'd like to be a volunteer and you're not already on our volunteer database, meaning you're not receiving our emails, please shoot us an email and we'd love to have you added so that anytime we do events going forward, you can be sure to stay in the loop and be able to help out if you're interested, inshallah. Thank you again for your time, and we'll turn it back to you.
Jazakallah for all of your efforts, for all the efforts of the volunteers. Inshallah, they can continue on this path and continue doing more work at a larger scale over the years. Like they mentioned, all of this happens with the support of individuals, mostly in our communities here in Chicago. And if you're looking to just volunteer, if you're looking to help out any other way financially, feel free to contact that email, and they'll be willing to help you from there. So without further ado, I'd like to invite the poet for the evening tonight. Brother Nuri Sadar is a poet, spoken word artist, and filmmaker born in the city of Westminster, London. His writings focus on the Ahl-Bayt and on issues of social justice and divine love. He has resided across the UK and internationally in North America, Europe, and the Middle East. Nuri has published 5 volumes of his collected poetry and produced multiple albums commemorating the epic of Ashra with various reciters and artists. Through books, albums, videos, and couplets on various social media outlets, his poetry is read and heard avidly by readers worldwide. Please recite aloud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. Thank you so much, brother, for that wonderful introduction. And inshallah today I'll be reciting a few poems in honor of the tragedy of Karbala and Shah Qasim alayhi salam as well. First point I wanted to recite begins with today. To describe such a day, the day of Ashura, there are not enough letters. In describing that day, the alphabet shatters. Because A is for Ashura and little else matters. B is the back broken by the fall of his brother. C is the care of the orphans left there without care. Despair gripped their hearts, asking, where is our father, where? Echoes of cries as enemies into their eyes stare. Father, come back, protect your daughters from the fire. G is forgive, and on that day how much was given. H is for the hands that from Abbas were taken. I is for I'll never drink, and water he'd return. Justice did not know someone like Hussein's flag bearer. Kinds are of many, but Akbar was one of a kind. Layla wonders how his absence does not make her blind. Mothers that day lost sons, so that salvation they would find. Nothing comes close to a son given by his mother. The O is for one, because there is one pain that breaks the heart. Pure, pure was the baby's neck by an hour ripped apart. Pure was the baby's neck by an hour ripped apart. Qasim was just like this when from his mother he'd part. R is for Abab and Ramla, or Farwa, whose eyes saw horror. S is the stranger killed all alone in Karbala. T is the thirsty, murdered thirsty with no water. U is unburied for days and his head raised upon a spear. Verily Hussein was killed as a thirsty stranger. Zainab says, where are my brothers and sisters and sons? Where are they? Where? Where are my brothers, sisters and sons? Where are they? Where? X is all I see on names that no more appear. Years are all that I know, as my minutes are now like years. Zainab stands without anyone calling for her father. Zainab stands without anyone calling for her father. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Tonight, we are gathered to lament in particular the tragedy of Shah Qasim alayhi salam, and it's a tragedy that breaks every single one of our hearts. Because even though each musibah of Ashura breaks our heart in a different way, what's so heartbreaking about Qasim alayhi salam was how young he was, how innocent he was. It's as if he entered the land of Karbala as an innocent young youth, and he left as a man grown within just a few days. Qasim tells us all his will, us being the youth of the community. He says, "O youth, hear me, my tragedy when you mourn and remember. Hear my story, hear my glory, and help me live forever. Because on that day my uncle taught me to live like Ali and die like Hussein. O youth, when you recall me and for me you weep, the lessons of my story in your tears keep. I saw my uncle alone and wouldn't sleep. I tell you the tears that he shed, angels would sweep. Feeling guilty, Farwa saw me take Hassan's armor and shield. She cried for me, none could make me throw down my sword and yield. I told my mother, please let me leave this tent and my death attain. On that day my uncle taught me to live like Ali and die like Hussein. O youth, know that by two names I was left in awe. I'm young, but I can't explain the things I saw. For years, for a man named Ali, tears would pour. The pride of this name, every man beside me wore. I saw a pride that never died. We were the sons of Ali. In awe of us, they all loved us. And this every day I would see. A promise that lived inside me, a pride that my actions would maintain. I was young when they killed my father Hassan. Every eye would look at me as an orphan, all alone, and came to wipe my head, a man. Now that man is all alone, and to help him I can. When I was young, to me he would come, and he'd become my father. What has become? Now he has no one, and he's calling for a helper. What kind of son would Qasim be? if all alone he would remain. I lived my life in my grandfather's shadow. For my morals, my love for Ali, they'd know. And on that day, his words to the world I'd show. Yesterday has gone, and uncertain is tomorrow. Work within this world, he would say, as if you'll live forever, and as if you'll die tomorrow. Work toward the hereafter. Today's my day. I'll work for me to be known as Qasim the Slain. My uncle had a love of Ali so grand. For being his son, Hussein was led to this land. For being the son of Ali, Hussein was led to this land. All his sons, the name Ali on their hearts he'd band. He'd name them all Ali, even if he had 1,000. I saw Hussein. He loved this name. It left my uncle entranced. A young lion, I embraced him, and with this great name I pounced. Ali's zeal flowed inside me, and I'd make the enemy's blood rain. My grandfather, he was aware. He knew who'd die for Hussein and how and where. If he's watching, how can into life I continue to stare? How can I live if he wanted me killed here? I left my tent. I left my tent, Farwa would lament. By her cries to war I'm led. Her tears drip down my wedding gown. To her nightmares I have fed. But if fate wanted me to marry, I'd not have seen Karbala's plain. I'd cry out on the battlefield. I'd cry out, pretending like my voice was thunder, saying I am the hero of Uhud and Badr. I'd pretend that I was the one struck on Qadr, so young, but I wanted to be like Haider. So young and yet still they feared me. I hope my grandfather's proud. I imagined that I was Ali, leaving in awe Badr's crowd. Ali, you are the father of dust, so accept me as one of its grains. O youth, on that day, I learned many lessons, and because of it, my name in hearts glistens. When they realized that I was one of Hassan's orphans, their sword called out my name, and death it listens. Swords cut through me. Swords cut through me, death embraced me, arrows at me they would propel. I was murdered, I was massacred, and I learned this from my uncle. And perhaps Hussein learned from me, because like me, his throat was cut vein to vein. On that day, my uncle taught me to live like Ali and die like Hussein. On that day, my uncle taught me to live like Ali and die like Hussein. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. For my last poem, I want you to take your minds to the aftermath of Ashura. Of course, the hearts continue to grow in more and more sorrow as Ashura approaches us, but just for now, I want you to take your mind to after Ashura, after everyone has been gone. And Imam Sajjad alayhi salam returns to bury the bodies. He sees the bodies of all of his beloved ones. And he stands there looking at the bodies ahead of him. And he says, how do I bury so many bodies? Loved one after loved one, my shoulders carry. I want you to take yourself into the mind of Imam Sajjad. After everything he's seen, he now returns miraculously to Karbala to bury each and every single loved one of his, each and every single person that he grew up with, each and every single person that he's seen alive, he now has to bury them. How do I bury so many bodies? Loved one after loved one, my shoulders carry. Such sorrow, my shoulders carry. My steps, they become heavier with walking. And with every step, I feel like decades I am aging. I left the day of death while still living, and I return to death heeding my wailing. The bodies that I see that scatter this land were once men who for prayer beside me would stand. I once kissed that cheek, now one with the sands, and I once felt the warmth in those severed hands. There is no life here, just flesh upon spears, and that blood-stained bone can't be washed by tears. Loss of life, my shoulders carry. Death was left in the open for burial. Life ascended from them all when they fell. To say goodbye, my tongue isn't able. For the bones of my loved ones, the dust calls. Habib, My elder, grey beard bathed in blood. I lower my Zuhair into the mud. I kiss the cheek of Joan, just like Hussein would, while he leaves me here to meet with my beloved. All of them are gone, leaving me alone to bear such a weight that bends my backbone. All alone, my shoulders carry. Innocence was murdered upon that day. Roses were crushed before taken away. Their juices bled blood red as swords would prey on mothers' loves for sons, turning hair grey. Tell me what man should have to bury a young boy? Tell me what man should have to bury a young boy? His arms flail as Qasim I carry. His arms flail as Qasim I carry. His grave no bigger than a teen's should be. I'm sure, my beloved, it is filled with honey. You saw death sweeter than a bird's flutter. He asked, are you sure? And you did not stutter. My cousin, my shoulders carry. I saw a body that made me quiver. For a moment, I thought this was Medina. Is that the body of my grandfather, Muhammad? Is that the body of my grandfather? Or is that the body of Ali al-Akbar? Am I in Najaf? For this is Ali, struck upon his head and taken too early. Oh Allah, protect me. Oh Allah, forgive me. How does an Ali anyone bury? An Ali buried and buried by an Ali. Could this be Najaf? Surely it must be. An Ali, my shoulders carry. Covered in dust, I turned toward the Farat, but I saw blood all over me on every part. Covered in dust, I turned toward the Farat, but I saw blood over me on every part. I washed it all off before I depart. Why? Because I did not want to break my uncle's heart. I did not want to break my uncle's heart. I found his left hand, and then I searched for his right, feeling my heart with the angel of death fight. Oh, uncle, you once towered over us with your might, and yet now you lie there handless, met with your plight. Our love for you grew. If only you knew, I found your musk and I buried it with you. Abu Fadl, my shoulders carry. My eyes would have refused sight had they known that my beloved father they would be shown, with his tongue still dry from thirst, left naked and alone. No longer Hussein, instead crushed flesh and bone. My eyes would have refused sight had they known that my beloved father they would be shown, his tongue still dry from thirst, left naked and alone. No longer Hussein, instead crushed flesh and bone. As best as I can, I place him into his crypt. As best as I can, I place him into his crypt. And I tell him, now you can finally rest. But I hear a voice scream from his severed neck. I hear a voice scream from his severed neck as he says, the baby, put the baby on my chest. The baby, put the baby on my chest. But tell me, father, if I bring Asghar, your chest has been crushed, so how will he lay there? Tell me, father, if I bring Asghar, your chest has been crushed, so how will he lay there? A baby, my shoulders carry. How do I bury so many bodies? Loved one after loved one, my shoulders carry. Such sorrow, my shoulders carry. Such sorrow, my shoulders carry. Assalamu alaikum ya Mawlai, ya Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
وزوال salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajam. Thank you again. Please recite aloud salawat for the brother. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajum. Before we just move on, today marks the 7th Majalis in our Ashra English lecture series by Moulana Syed Safi Haider Abidi. Today's speech continues on the topic of Marifat al-Nafs, al-Irfan, and Shi'ism. Please recite aloud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajum.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا بالقاسم المصطفى محمد وصلى اللهم على آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم من عرف نفسه فقد عرف ربه صلوات على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Tonight marks the second night of our discussion of Islamic spirituality, more specifically Ma'rifatun Nafs, as it relates to the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam. You see, when we talk about Ma'rifatun Nafs, we have to understand that this Ma'rifah occurs within the context of our aqaid, which also occurs in the context of fiqh and akhlaq. There is no irfan if you don't pray. There's no irfan if you don't believe in God. There's no irfan if you don't believe in His justice or nabuwwat or imamat or qiyamat. There's no irfan if you don't fast in Ramadan. There's no irfan if you don't give your khums and zakat. What the ulafa have said, and I've quoted this previously in the previous lectures, is that ilm al-irfan, practical irfan, can be summed up in two phrases. Not words, phrases. One, follow all your wajibat. Pray on time. Two, follow or avoid all the muharramat. Everything that's haram, you avoid it. That is why in Irfan, whenever you look at the urafa, they always prefer to pray at Ainul Waqt. Why? Because the fadila performing your wajibat at Ainul Waqt is much greater than offering them at any other time. Sallallahu Muhammad ala Muhammad. That is why you will go to the holy sites and the holy cities, inshallah, after this waba of corona. May all the mu'mineen, may all the believers and the walayat of Ahlul Bayt have the blessing to go to the holy shrines. And you will always see the urafa, they are the first in the haram to offer their prayers. Many of them, if not all of them, will spend the whole night in prayer. But we have certain ways in which we can compensate, because let's admit it, let's be frank. Spending the whole night in prayer is good, but it's only good if you have a life besides spending that whole night in prayer, and you implement the principles of the prayer in your everyday life. If I say that I am worshiping God, then my khums and zakat has to come from a halal source. And I have to practice ahsan al-akhlaq, husnul al-akhlaq with my family members. How can I look to please the mother of Hussein when my mother is angry with me? How can I look to please the father of Hussein when my father is angry with me? How can I look to please the sister of Hussein when my sister, she says, or how can I fulfill the rights of the sister of al-Hussein when my sister says that I have not fulfilled my rights to her? How can I fulfill the rights of the brother of Hussein or the brothers of Hussein, when my brother says he's not fulfilled his right upon me? How can I love the children of Hussein, the Imam that follow in the progeny of Imam Hussein, when I do not fulfill the rights of my children? Inshallah, may Allah make it so that we all have the best life in this world and in the akhirah. Now, following the way of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam has always been a difficult path, undeniably. Now, when we talked about aqa'id, I talked about the development of aqa'id through history and relationships to Sayyidina of Muhammad. Number one, the discussion was a purview or a summation of the arguments, or setting up the context of the discussion rather, in the first lecture. And we talked about Tawheed. In the second lecture, I talked about the adalat of Allah. In the third lecture, I talked about the nabuwah, or the other aspects of Allah's sifat. In the fourth lecture, I talked about nabuwah. The fifth was imamat and qiyamat. And yesterday was setting up the framework for a discussion on Islamic spirituality within the context of aqa'id and akhlaq and ahkam, al-fiqh. Why? Because when we talk about aqa'id, we have to make sure our spirituality is in the right direction as well. I cannot just say that I believe in Ahlul Bayt and that's it. My whole goal, setup of my life should be just qurbatan ilallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Qurbatan ilallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sacrifice for the sake of God. Sacrifice everything for the sake of God. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. When I say practice everything for the way of God, it is saying basically, simply put, that I should be the Ali Akbar of the time. I should be the Qasim of the time. I should be the Al-Abbas of the time. If I cannot be like them, I should try to tread their path. Because Imam Hussein's cry, Hal min nasirin yansurna, is a cry that can still be heard today. Throughout the world, we have Majalis even in this wabah of Corona. And we are instilling in our hearts the lesson of Labbaika ya Hussein. Labbaika ya Hussein. Labbaika ya Hussein is the cry for anyone who wants justice. Anyone who wants to demand their God-given rights has the right to say Labbaika ya Hussein. Let everybody know that Labbaika ya Hussein is the cry for fighting against the tyrant. Labbaika ya Hussein is the cry for humanity. Labbaika ya Hussein is the cry for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Labbaika ya Hussein is a cry for the prophets of God. Labbaika ya Hussein is a cry for Akhri Rasul. Labbaika ya Hussein is a cry for Amir al-Mu'mineen. Labbaika ya Hussein is the cry for the A'imma of Ahlul Bayt. It is important for us to say Labbaika ya Hussein with the highest level of faith. Where when I come to the Majlis of Imam Hussein, I do not leave empty-handed. I should do this with the intention that Imam al-Zaman is here. And now, since we are not in the physical mosque, not only is Imam al-Zaman not in the masajid, but he is in each and every single one of our houses. Fatima al-Zahra is in each and every single one of the houses that has set up the farsh of Azah at their homes. She is present at their home, the homes of those who are doing majalis, even in live sessions, but online sessions, but they're doing it from their homes. Yes, she is there. The ikhlas should be there. It's very hard, like I've said to brothers before, to create the mahal of the majlis in times like this, in a situation like this. But we have to remember that Hazrat Bibi is here in our homes. Wherever we are listening to the musibah of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, wherever we are listening to the story of the incident and the tragedy of Karbala, Lady Fatima is here. We are the dua of Fatima Zahra. We are the munajat of Fatima Zahra. We are the dua of Rasulullah. We are that nation. When Abu Abdullah al-Husayn was born and Fatima Zahra was told by Rasulullah that neither Rasulullah nor Amir al-Mu'mineen nor Fatima Zahra nor Imam Hassan will be there, she asked, who will lament over my son? No one will be there when Imam Hussein becomes shaheed. They ask, who will cry for my son? Who will lament for my son Hussein? He says, Allah will create a nation. Rasulullah says, Allah will create a nation whose sons will mourn his sons, whose men will mourn his women, whose children will mourn his children, whose women will mourn his women. We are that dua where Fatima Zahra says, I will not enter paradise until every azadar of my son enters paradise. Imagine the beneficent and the blessing of this majalis, that now we are partaking in every aspect of the phrase in each and every single one's home. There's a famous line of a famous Noha that says, Har ghar pe saja hoga Abbas alam tera. Now, literally it's happening, where every house has an alam of Abu al-Fadl Abbas. Every house has a standard of Abu al-Fadl Abbas. Every house had that standard. Of course, when we talk about Marifat al-Nafs and the Ma'rifah of Ahl al-Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, we have to understand that Marifat al-Nafs, the statement is Man arafa nafsah faqad arafa rabbah. He who understands Arafa nafsah. Last night we talked about this meaning of Arafa, knowledge, Irfan, Hikmat. Let's talk today about Nafsa. And then we will talk about Rabbah in the next few lectures. When I say that the human being is only a human being when the soul is attached to his physical body, otherwise it's a dead, rotting corpse. People will question me, they will ask me, they will say, why do you believe in a soul when we do not see any such things? We cannot put it in a test tube, we cannot perform our analysis of the soul, and therefore we have no way of finding out whether or not the soul is real. That's a big question. It's an important question. If I know the soul is real, how do I know? The very fact that we are talking and that when we say a specific person, the whole image comes to mind of that person. The very fact that there will be a Yawm al-Akhirah is a testimony to the existence of the soul. When I say soul, what is the meaning of soul? You see, there are different terminologies. There is mind, there is body, there is spirit, there is soul. In Urdu, we would say mind is dimagh. It is, or the brain, rather. And there's a difference between mind and brain, but let's not get into that as well. The brain is right here. The mind is something abstract created from the neural firings of the brain. The body is the physical body. Spirit is ruh. And soul is nafs. For the brain, people can cut open our bodies or our skulls to figure out there's a brain. For the body, we have this physical body that shows us this is our body. For the mind and the spirit and the nafs, people ask, what are you talking about? How do I know there's a spirit or a nafs or a mind when I cannot see it? like I said before, the very proof of the existence of the mind, of the spirit, of the nafs, is that when a person dies, they can't start moving again. They can't start talking again. They can't start understanding again. People will say, how can I believe in such an abstract, non-physical reality or non-observable reality? And just because there is a non-physical reality or a non-observable reality does not mean that I should not believe in it. There are many instances in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, those who believe in the ghaib or the hidden, the air around me, do I see the air around me? No, it's ghaib. Right now, I am lecturing. I see the surroundings around me. Do I see what is outside this room? No, because it's ghaib. Do I stop believing in it? No. If I want to go look out into the streets, that is apparent for me. The town over is ghaib. Qurbah can be physical nearness, however, or it can be spiritual nearness. Ghaib can also be physical, unseen, spiritual, unseen. When I talked about outside this room or looking for the town next to me, that's all physical ghaib. And, in comparison, that is ba'id. In Arabic, they say ba'id, which means far. That is further off. This room is qareeb. I see the alams, I see the panje, I see the everything. I see the banners and everything. But I cannot see in the darkness of the night anything. Why? Because although physically it is qareeb, it has been veiled with a parda of the darkness of the dark night. That, therefore, it is qareeb but ba'id at the same time. Spiritual or metaphysical nearness and farness is not something that when I talk about spiritual nearness, the closest thing that is near to me is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just because I can't see God, and we talked about God for 3 lectures, does that mean I stop believing in Him? Just because I cannot put God in a test tube, does that mean I stop believing in Him? No. Because the very fact that there is a desire for justice is a proof of Qiyamah, but that is also a proof of God. Because, let's admit it, when I say justice, the ultimate answer is there must be some force of justice that is the just, that is the adil force that runs this universe, that can account for all the sins of the sinners and all the blessings of those who are considered to have done ahsanat and performed all their wajibat in Ain al-Waqt. Why, therefore, is it that do I deny God? No. The prophets are ghaib, both in terms of time, in terms of spiritually, at least for me. When I look at the prophet, I see somebody who is up at the sky of Iman while I'm like 5 million meters or feet below or yards below the earth. When I look at Imam Ali, he is at the height of Iman, I am 1 million feet below the earth. When I look at the Aimma of Ahlul Bayt, I am 1 million feet below the earth, they are up in the skies. Both in terms of time, they are ba'id, and in terms of their characteristics compared to mine, they are up here, mine is way down there, therefore they are ba'id in that sense as well. Do I stop believing in them? Do I stop believing in Ahlul Bayt? Na'udhu billah. Do I stop believing in any single thing like that, no. But then people will ask, you might as well believe that there is a cookie or a spaghetti monster outside in the solar system that nobody can see with the physical eye, and that is the spaghetti monster is making sure that the world runs beautifully. Obviously, it's a joke. My logic professor mentioned that, everybody left. But when we talk about this is a common question. If I cannot see something, how can I worship him? The answer is you don't see him with your physical eyes. You see them with the eyes of your mind, of your heart, of your nafs and your soul. Mind, heart, nafs, soul are proof of God. The fact that I am perceiving these realities is a proof of the existence of my soul. You see, in many different societies and religions and thoughts, external knowledge is seen to be the extreme knowledge. But spiritual inward knowledge is not considered to be the extreme knowledge, or knowledge at all. Whereby I can go test the genealogy of plants and animals. That's physical knowledge. I can study genomics. That's physical knowledge. I can study even the laws governing society. That is considered to be a separate field of knowledge. I can study the laws governing politics. That's a separate field of knowledge. I can study the laws of economics. That's a separate field of knowledge. But when it comes to spiritual knowledge, people say this is all bogus. It's fake news. It's fake. Why should I believe in a spirit? Do you believe in the ultimate God of economy? Do you believe that you can see the laws of political science? Do you believe that you can see the laws of sociology? Are any one of the axioms of science not the examples which are the manifestation of those laws manifested in this world? No. Do you believe in them? Yes. Many things we cannot see, we believe. Yet, when it comes to the nafs, the human being has a very arrogant way of saying, why should I believe? Why should I believe? Where does the Quran say about this? Of course, the Quran believes in the existence of the nafs. I will talk about a few verses. The first verse that comes to mind is كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ. Every nafs will taste the taste of death. Now, the famous, I've quoted him previously as well, the famous mujtahid of the Indo-Pak tradition, he's still alive, Allama Aqil al-Gharawi, has a way of explaining this that everybody from the Indo-Pak subcontinent will understand exactly what he's saying. He says, when you have Rajab Niyaz, when you have Kunde at your house, you invite the Moulana to recite Fatiha and 3 times Surah Al-Ikhlas for Bibi Imam Ja'far Sadiq and the Masumin and from your family as well, right? And then one by one you have people coming in, not one by one, sometimes they come in by dozens at the same time. Does the Niyaz finish, or do the people who want to taste the Niyaz finish? The Niyaz finishes, the people keep coming. The Niyaz finishes, the people keep coming. In the same way, Maut is the Niyaz that Allah is serving. And nafs are not going to end, but that Niyaz will end. That death will end. My goal is that eternal life of the hereafter. Now, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the nafs, He says many different things. The one thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, at the very creation of mankind, when Allah says He will breathe His spirit into the putla, or to the statue of the human being, of the archetypical human being, and they will have to, the malaika, all of them will have to do sajda. You see, that Allah breathed His soul into us. All of mankind are the vicegerents of God on this earth. We have a divine prophet inside us called our soul. When we talk about our soul, therefore, this is the aspect of the divinity that takes us directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah wants us to free our souls from the physical nature of this life. Why? How can we free our souls? Only the Prophet used to recite 1,000 rakat every night. How is it possible that an ordinary human being like myself, your iman, your faith is much better than mine? How can I perform 1,000 rakat? I can't. I'll fall asleep after the first half rakat is over. But then we have to understand that we have to try. That's the only thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks of us. Allah wants us to make our souls and hearts the receptacle of the divine gift. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions another heart, which is the heart of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, which is the heart of Nubuwwah. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. Surely we revealed it on Laylatul Qadr. What? The Quran. What was revealed? The Quran. On Laylatul Qadr. Layla is a name for Fatima. Qadr is a name for Ali. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ. And what do you know about this Laylatul Qadr? Laylatul Qadr خَيْرًا مِنَ أَلْفِ الشَّهْرِ تَنَزَّلُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَالرُّوحُ فِيهَا بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهِمْ مِنْ كُلِّ أَمْرٍ سَلَامٌ هِيَ حَتَّى مَطْلَعِ الْفَجْرِ. Surely we revealed it on Laylatul Qadr. What do you know about this Laylatul Qadr? This Laylatul Qadr is better than alfi shahr, 1,000 months. تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها, and the malaika and the ruh arwah are revealed unto this. بإذن ربهم من كل أمر. سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر. Physically speaking, Laylatul Qadr is one night out of the year. Most likely it is the one night in the month of Ramadan. More specifically, it is one night in the last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan where the Quran was revealed to Muhammad, and it was one statement that was revealed, but Muhammad had the summary of the Quran revealed on one night, and throughout 20 some odd years of his prophecy, it was revealed in stages, therefore, the explanation which came in various ayat until the full Quran was completed. Now, this one Laylatul Qadr is that important. Imagine what the esoteric or the Marifat or the Irfani understanding of this surah is. This Laylatul Qadr, one night, is that important. Imagine the importance of the one woman who gave birth to not just one Quran, but 11 talking, walking Qurans. It is our belief Fatima Zahra had only 2 sons, and both sons became Imam. From every other mother of every Imam, it's only one son that becomes Imam. And this is not talking about the Imams as much as it is talking about Fatima Zahra. Fatima Zahra is of that high level of status that if she had 1,000,000 sons, each and every single one of them would be Imam. If Muhsin saw the light had not become Shaheed in the fetus and he was born, he would have become Imam. That is the nature of Fatima Zahra. That is the beauty of Fatima Zahra. And of course, Fatima Zahra in the real sense is the heart of Muhammad. A lot of times people say that the Quran was revealed on the heart of Muhammad. Does that mean this physical fleshy heart? No. It means it was revealed on Fatima Zahra Salamullahi alayha. Now, let us talk about Karbala, inshallah ta'ala. You know, when we talk about Karbala and Ashura, we have to understand that the mantiq of one was the mantiq of the other. There was no difference in the iman of one from the other. Of course, the Imam was Imam, and Imam Sajjad was Imam Sajjad. But from the Ahl al-Bayt and Ashab, they were all on the same platform. Whether they were Abdullah al-Radhi or Ali Asghar or Qasim or Aun al-Muhammad or Ali Akbar or Al-Abbas or Habib ibn Madahir or Zuhair ibn al-Qayn or Muslim ibn Awsaja or the children of Aqil or the children of Ja'far al-Tayyar or the children of al-Banin, any one of them, all of them who gave their life for Abu Abdullah, they were walking, talking the principles of Labbaika Ya Hussein. When we see that Ra'i bought Umar ibn Sa'ad, Hur comes to the defense of Imam Hussein because he had the true love of Fatima Zahra in his heart. When we see that when the caravan is about to reach Karbala, a couple of days before the Muharram begins, Imam Hussein sees a dream. And he sees in his dream basically that the whole Qunba is being killed. He wakes up. Ali Akbar sees his father is shooken by the dream. He says, "Father, what happened?" He says, "Son, I saw a dream where everybody was killed. From my family members, all the male of my family members were killed. You were killed, I was killed, everybody was killed. What do you think of this?" Now, the Imam's son, Ali Akbar, is really Shakl Paymbar. Not only in his character, not only in his physical nature, but in every aspect of his being. His character, his nafs, is a complete replica of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When he hears this, he says, "Father, are we not with the truth?" And of course, Imam Hussein says, "Yes." Then he says, "Father, we will not shy away from fighting for the truth. We will not shy away from this." When Nabi Ismail is told by his father about the dream that his father had, sacrificing him, he says, "Father, insha'Allah minas sabirin. Father, inshallah, you will see us of the patient ones." Now there's a difference between the Iman of Nabi Ismail and the Iman of the Ahl al-Bayt of Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where one says Sabirin, the other is performing Sajdat al-Shukr on Shami Ghariba, where one is Sabirin, the other is Shakirin, where one is Hajira, who is tempted by Shaitan to tell Nabi Ibrahim to stop, and when Lady Zainab, basically in the demise of Yazid and Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, she gets asked a question: "We destroyed your household, we killed everybody from your family. What do you see of this?" You know what she says? She says, "Wama ra'aytu illa jamila." I see nothing in this but the beauty of God. I see nothing in this but the blessings of God. I see nothing in this but the jamal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is what she sees. She sees mercy. She sees compassion. She sees God's love. She sees God's choosing her family for this divine path. Now, let's backtrack a little bit. Imam Ali leaves this world. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam begins his imamat, and his imamat is longer than his Khilafat. Khilafat was only for, I believe, a couple of months or maybe a year or so. When Yazid, Muawiyah buys Imam al-Hasan's wife, and he tells her that she will get to wed his son Yazid, and he bribes her with wealth and the pomp of the Emirate of Sham. She gets bribed, and she poisons Imam al-Hasan. The poison was so strong that when Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam went to drink, went to eat, he would vomit up chunks of his liver. Imam al-Hasan, they would bring one bowl for him. He would vomit up chunks of his liver. When that bowl would be removed, they would bring another bowl for him. He would vomit up chunks of his liver again. Bowl after bowl, he keeps on vomiting up chunks of his liver and his organs and all of this. And you know what happens? Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salatu wassalam is there. Abu Abdullah al-Husayn is there. When he hears the news that Imam al-Hasan has become shaheed, he tends the few-year-old Qasim, and he makes him look like he's been orphaned. When Lady Zainab sees him, she goes running to her brother's house. You know what happens? Imam al-Hasan, before Sayyida Zainab enters the house, he had there put away the bartan or the saman that had the chunks of Imam al-Hasan's liver. And you know what? Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, he had such mercy even in this most difficult time, where the wife who poisoned him said, I will not be able to face Zainab in this condition. Please let me go. She lets him go through a back door. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, he gives taweez for Hazrat Qasim. And he writes this taweez for Hazrat Qasim before he leaves this world. And he gives it for Hazrat Qasim to be open at a time when he would need more help. Now, remember, Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam is breathing his last. Imam al-Hasan breathes his last, and the imamat of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn begins. The imamat of Imam Husayn begins. Imam al-Husayn is, Prophet Muhammad's body was picked up by a few companions. But Prophet Muhammad, I say this, you were lucky in the sense that nobody threw arrows at your kafan, at your mayyat. When Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, he tells his brother the instructions that when you bury me, I prefer to be buried next to my grandfather Rasulullah. But if they don't let me bury me there, bury me next to my mother. They take the kafan, the body of Imam al-Hasan. When the body goes through one of the wives of the prophets, the quarters of one of the wives of the prophet, it gets shredded with arrows. This is one janazah. This is the only janazah that was taken out twice. Lady Imam Hussein brings the janazah back to his house, back to the Qabila Bani Hashim, and he says to Sister Zainab, cry later, but first help me pick out the arrows from the body of my brother, Imam al-Hasan. Rasulullah was lucky, but you are also lucky. You have a brother who's alive, who's ready to take arrows out of your janazah. Imagine what Lady Zainab was seeing on the day of Ashura. Nobody was there to take off the arrows from the body of Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam. Now, this whole reason of why I am mentioning this is that Imam al-Hasan wrote a taweez for Hazrat Qasim when he would be in his most difficult circumstances. On the day of Ashura, on the night of Ashura, all the women are giving nasiha to their children. They want their children to be the first one to go lose their life for Imam Hussein. Rubab, Farwa, Layla, Sayyida Zainab, they're all giving nasiha and guidance to their children. You know what? Hazrat Qasim is also being given guidance. On the night of Ashura, you know what Hazrat Qasim says? He says, when asked by Imam Hussein, what is your view of death? He says, in your way, O uncle, death is sweeter than honey. Death is sweeter than honey. On the day of Ashura, Imam al-Hussein, he keeps on preventing Hazrat Qasim to go fight. He does not want Hazrat Qasim to leave this world. He says, you are the inheritor of my brother Hassan. How can I let you go? When I look at you, I think of Hassan. How can I let you go? He keeps on stalling. He does not want Qasim to go. Qasim sits down. He sits down, grieved and upset that he's not able to go fight for his uncle Imam Hussein. You know what happens? His mother comes to him. His mother says, Qasim, what's wrong, my son Qasim? He says to her mother, my uncle Abu Abdullah al-Hussein does not want to give me permission to go fight. He keeps on preventing me. His mother remembered the taweez. Hazrat Qasim opened it, he looked at it, and he gave it to Imam al-Hussein. Imam al-Hussein, when he looked at this taweez, he looked at it and he started crying. He started crying. You know why? Because it was written in the handwriting of his brother Imam al-Hassan, saying that, oh Hussein, there will come a time where you will be stranded alone. I will have passed this world. I will not be there to help you. Please accept Qasim. Please accept Qasim as my sacrifice. You know what Abu Abdullah al-Hussein does? He gives Qasim the turban of Imam al-Hassan. He gives him the zira of Imam al-Hassan. Qasim is only a little child. He is not even baligh. You know what happens to Hazrat Qasim, salamullahi alayh? You know what happens to him? He cannot even get on a horse to ride the horse. He goes on foot. He starts fighting. He starts fighting like the son of Imam al-Hassan would fight, like the grandson of Imam al-Hussein, Imam Ali would fight. He starts fighting. He looks at his sandal. He sees that his sandal is broken. He goes to fix his sandal. And then a Shaqiq comes and he strikes Hazrat Qasim. Hazrat Qasim calls out, Ya Amma, oh uncle, help me. Oh uncle Hussein, come help me. Imam al-Hussein is distraught. He takes his horse Murtajiz Zuljana and he goes to help Qasim, Al-Bufadl Abbas as well. And there's a fight that occurs at the martyrdom spot of Hazrat Qasim, where Imam al-Hussein would fight them. They would move left and right. And you know what happened to them? Multiple horses trampled over the body of Hazrat Qasim. There were only two shuhada in Karbala whose bodies were trampled over by horses. One was the body of Hazrat Qasim. The other was the body of Abu Abdullah. You know what the difference between the body of Hazrat Qasim and Abu Abdullah were? He says, they say that Abu Abdullah, when his body was being trampled by horses, he was not alive. When Hazrat Qasim's body was being trampled by horses, Qasim was alive. And then when the dust subsided and the horses finally relaxed, Imam al-Hussein kept on saying, woe to the uncle, that when you call to help him, he comes to help you, but he cannot help you. He recites this marsiya. You know what happens? When they want to pick up the body of Hazrat Qasim, there are different narrations as to what happened. Imam Hussein wants to pick up the chest and the legs would fall off. He picks up the head and something else would fall off. He picks up the legs and something else would fall off. And they say that he took a chadar, Some say it was a servant, but at least he took a chadar. He put the body pieces of Hazrat Qasim's body onto the chadar. He made it into a ghatri, and then he took this ghatri, he took it back to the tents. When Farwa saw this bag almost, she says, where is my son Qasim? Abu Abdullah al-Hussein has to tell and show Farwa that your son Qasim, he gave his last breath for me. Horses trampled over his body. Qasim is no more. Qasim is no more. Just like there were bits and pieces of the liver of Imam al-Hasan, there are bits and pieces now of the body of Hazrat Qasim ibn al-Hasan. Qasim ibn al-Hasan was the embodiment of the statement that for the way of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, death is sweeter than honey. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. ماتم حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين.
السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. Oh, uncle's shining moon, let me look one more time. Let me look at your eyes. Let me look at your face. Pride and joy of Hassan. See how your uncle cries. See how your uncle cries. Qasim, amana of your mother. Qasim, amana of my brother. Qasim, amana of the Rasul. Qasim, amana of Allah. Oh, Qasim, 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 Shaheed. 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 Oh, the joy of my heart, you are poor. How can I go? In my care you should grow. God, you're only a child. God, you're only a child. Qasim, memory of my brother. Qasim, last hope of your mother. Qasim, and some like no other. Qasim, how can uncle see you go? Qasim, 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 Shaheed. 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 Oh, my little Qasim, how your uncle did wish to see you grow into youth. See you married one day, hold your children and play. Karbala killed my wish. Karbala killed my wish. Qasim, so full of youth and life, my Qasim. This shouldn't be a child's life, Qasim. How can I stand here, watch, oh Qasim? Soldiers killing my child, Qasim. Qasim, 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 Shaheed. 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 Curses to the one who lays in wait to kill my Qasim, oh my nephew. May my two eyes go blind, but do not let me see any harm come to you. any harm come to you. Qasim, horses are galloping, where is Qasim? Uncle is running, screaming, Qasim. Suddenly the dust dies down, Qasim. Pieces and pieces scatter, Qasim. Qasim, 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 Shaheed. 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 Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين. السلام عليك يا إمام محمد الباقر علم النبي. السلام عليك يا إمام جعفر الصادق. السلام عليك يا إمام موسى الكاظم. السلام عليك يا إمام علي بن موسى الرضا. السلام عليك يا إمام محمد بن علي الجواد. السلام عليك يا إمام علي بن محمد الهادي. السلام عليك يا إمام حسن بن علي الزكي العسكري. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان. الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته بالنبي وآله. رحم الله من يقرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل.